Hello and welcome to another episode of The Mystic Femininity. In this episode entitled The Art of Self-Care, Nurturing Your Divine Self, we're going to dive into the transformative power of self-care as a means to nurture your divine femininity. True self-care isn't about occasional spa days or indulgences, even though those do go into the realm of self-care. Self-care really truly is a sacred practice of honoring yourself on every level. I think deep to the cellular level when it comes to our self-care. We will explore how to integrate self-care into your daily life in a way that supports your body, your mind, and spirit for lasting holistic well-being. When I think of self-care, in the many facets of life, self-care in this modern society has been hijacked by capitalism and consumerism. Self-care is more than going to Sephora and indulging in the newest trendy skincare or fragrance. Again, those are all, wonderful things, but that is not the extent of self-care. I often see people who may not be in a financial place where they want to be, and therefore they feel that they can't practice self-care. In this modern society in which wants women especially to be asleep and constantly going after a moving goalpost, the act of self-care can be extremely revolutionary, depending on the way of life that you are engaging. If you're someone that has been in a group of individuals that have not had safety, security, love, grace, peace, due to the variety of things that happen in our society, taking a stand and saying that your needs are important and that your needs deserve to be not just met but exceeded can be very, very trembling to the world. If more women took their energy back, like truly called all their energy back to them at once, and took that energy and put it forth to themselves, focused on themselves, this world would be very different. It would be a very different reality. However, our society is conditioned us, and the game of life is in a way pivoted in so that we never truly understand that our energy is not focused on us. It's focused on everything outside of us. The constant need for outside validation, the constant need to be seen as something of significance. All of these things being from our jobs, be it to our children, be it to our spouses, be it to our friends, our community, just life in general. If women were to take all their energy and focus it on themselves, it would be a game changer. Now, in our society, for women especially, we have been given this notion that to be focused on ourselves is to be considered selfish. And to be selfish is to be unhonorable as a woman. However, men do this every day without fail, without thought. If it doesn't prove to be beneficial to them, then it's not going to get done. Even the things that may appear to be selfless ultimately are done for a purpose of themselves, be it that they'll be well liked, well received. They may do things for a woman in hopes that they get to have sex with her at some point. Like, ultimately, everything leads back to their own pleasure and focus of self-preservation. Self-care is extremely important for women in order for you to not live a life where you're constantly dissociating and out of your body and just constantly seeking to be away from what is. Being able to give back to yourself is a beautiful joy. Yet I also understand from a personal experience, it can be extremely exhausting, especially when you figure out that the path that you've been going on has not been serving you. It's actually been the thing that is exhausting you. And so having to then pivot and acknowledge that the way that I'm leading my life is not working. And now I'm going to need to do something new, which after a while, when you do things over and over and over, we kind of go into autopilot. Now, that is good in certain things, especially if it's things that are healthy for you, but it's different when that's not the case. When you're doing things in autopilot that are not for your well-being. So staying up extra late to try to get everything done for the household and for your job, or overextending yourself for friends and family, anything that is not allowing you to have balance, that is going against yourself. That is dishonoring yourself. And so when you need to pivot away from that, for some it will be challenging because that is where you have sought and found your validation and your worth. When that is entangled, that is tethered together, it can be a cluster. But I will assure you that it is well worth the untangling of that in order for you to be the most beautiful flower that you are, but a flower that is well watered. So the first thing about self-care is that you would want to approach it from a holistic approach. Self-care is typically viewed through a more superficial lens, but when you look at it from a holistic approach, this is nurturing every facet of your body, your mind, your spirit, the whole enchilada, the entire woman. True self-care involves understanding what makes us feel fulfilled, what makes us feel connected, what makes us feel at peace. We'll discuss about these things a little bit deeper, but just understand that everything that you do, your whole being is very interconnected. And so when you care about yourself from the body, so working out, drinking water, taking time to do your skincare, to lavish yourself in beautiful fragrances and wearing and adorning yourself in beautiful clothes and taking care of your hair, your nails, like every piece of you, getting really great recuperative sleep. All of these things of the body, because when your body is well taken care of, that is the house of your spirit, and therefore your spirit is able to truly connect to the divine, which is your source of knowledge and wisdom and insight. So when your body is not doing what it needs to do, then everything else does the same. So when you pour into your body, you're also ensuring that your mind has a well suited place to live, therefore is able to thrive. You're able to connect dots. You're able to be creative. You're able to pull in the intuitiveness that is woman, that is the feminine. and then your spirit is able to soar brightly. It is deeply embodied in the divine, and you move in a way that is light and airy, almost like a flicker of a candle on a wall. It just lights and illuminates the world. Now, once you start to do that, it will take some time, but eventually it will become second nature to you. And you'll have this like long lasting effects. You won't be perfect initially. It takes time, and give yourself enough grace and understanding that you are embarking on something very counterintuitive and different in comparison to the programming that society has given you. And this programming goes as deep into our family roots and genes, all those things that carry over from generation to generation. And for some families, being a selfless woman is the high mark of society and of your family. Like, that is perceived as well. So when you go against the grain, it will definitely feel uncomfortable. You may deal with some challenges of thinking that you don't deserve to care for yourself this way, that it is being wrong. You may get some little nudges from others. Let me give you this as something to take and really mull over. When you begin to put yourself as a focal point, you will interrupt other people who have banked on you to remain the same, and for them to then be able to harness the energy that you put forth towards them. So when you change, when you pivot away and you start to pull your energy into yourself, you're starting to take time for yourself. You're meditating, you're meal prepping and making sure that it's healthy. You are taking walks instead of being available all the time. You are taking time to do your hair and to pick out your outfit. And there's just a certain level of bounciness, something vibrance that comes into you. Others will take notice, and others who do not like that will have something to say. And if nothing else, take that as a great indicator that you are definitely pivoting, because it's noticeable. It may not feel like you're doing much at first, but others will begin to notice, and it may make you feel as though you're doing something wrong, but you are not. You are well founded to take care of yourself. And I look at those who are mothers, especially, or those that are mothers, not necessarily of children, but just mothers in the sense of nurturing their communities, really on a small or grand scale. When you pour back into yourself, you are able to pour from a abundance, which means that you're not going to go dry. And if you're not going to go dry, that means whatever you are watering won't go dry either. But when you allow yourself to wither for the sake of others, that thing that you may care about the most, be it your children, be it your community, will also suffer, because you will burn out, you will wither, and depending on when you catch it, if you can, it will cause a ripple. So by you pouring into yourself, you are pouring into the divine of you, and thus the divine can restore you and bless you, and then you bless everything that you touch. Now, identifying and meeting your self-care needs. This can be a bit of a dance. The journey of self-care begins with knowing what you need. This is difficult in our society because our society has pushed us to silence ourself, and so we can't really figure out what it is we need. We may, for example, overeat, and we think that it's a hunger that we're having, and it is a hunger, but it's not of the food variety. It could mean this hunger could be a hunger for creativity, a hunger for passion, a hunger for pleasure. And pleasure not in the sense of food, but pleasure and sexual means. But if those particular outlets are not available to you, if you don't have those things, then you will then take what you can find, which would be food. Some of us drink, some of us do have intimacy, but it's not of the real deep thirst of love or pleasure. It is kind of like a quick fix, like a happy meal, if you will. It is not that deep, satisfying sort of pleasure. And so when you get into the needs that you have, be open to your needs, be gracious with them, and be patient with yourself. And also, don't judge, because I think in our society it is very, 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 very on brand for us to judge ourselves by saying what we need. But if we actually take heed to that, then we can actually develop ways that we can do and meet our needs on a practical way, integrating that into our day to day. You may need time for solitude and silence. You may need to be able to move your body in a way that is satisfying to you, and rest. Being able to rest on multiple levels. I think when we hear the word rest, there's this notion that we're being lazy. But we don't heal when we're in motion, we heal when we're at rest. That's why sleep is so important. When we sleep well, our bodies are able to heal on all different facets. So our way of society where we're stuck on social media, like we're addicted to social media and watching all sorts of Netflix and other things, which can be great in small dosages. But that isn't the case. We're staying up and we're scrolling instead of sleeping. And this then inhibits us from being able to be healed. And therefore, now we're searching and seeking things outside of ourselves, be it coffee, be it other foods, be it drugs, be it anything. We're searching for something else to satisfy what is not healed and what has not been able to be healed because we are not taking the time to rest. So making sure that you understand what you need and then being able to interweave that. So maybe if, let's say, for example, solitude is what you need. Maybe it's getting up a little earlier in the morning to have tea, to have coffee, and to just sit and just be and just allow the divine to speak to you. Especially if you have kids, because they're noisy. They're cute but noisy, and you can't think sometimes. So being able to really stop and listen, and that could be something that you need, and that's how you interweave it. Or maybe it's taking your lunch break at work and going for a walk because you need motion, you need movement, because you feel anxious and jittery, and instead of needing to take something to try to suppress it, allowing it to move forth through you would be a better option for you on a long-term level. Next thing you would want to look at when it comes to your self-care and being divinely feminine in it is being able to incorporate your beauty and wellness. Our beauty and wellness rituals are so powerful into our self-care, especially within our femininity. Now, this can be something as simple as your skincare regimen. It could be having a tea ceremony. For me, for the longest time, I was a coffee girl. I woke up early, especially now that the time change has happened. I would get up super early, make my coffee, get my journal, get my tarot cards, and would have that moment while it's still dark. And then my body's decided that caffeine is an enemy of it. And I have now switched over to tea. And there has been something to me almost magical in picking my herbs, making my tea, and this the whole practice of it. And that is super nourishing to me. And understanding that these herbs are also nourishing to my body just makes it just that much grander, and it just makes me feel so alive in the morning. Like, I'm extremely happy to have my tea, to have my gratitude journal, and just be. And this also can go into your beauty regimen. There was a time in my life in which I worked a lot, and the one thing that I looked forward to in the morning was doing my makeup. My makeup is still something that when I do it, it is a form of meditation, because I am essentially in my mind manifesting. I have a vision in my mind of what I want to look like. And then through the practice of applying the makeup, I manifest the look that I desire. And the beautification process of being a feminine being is, again, very powerful. But in our society, it is shunned upon. And that should kind of be your indicator. The things that are shunned upon when it comes to being woman should be the things that you go for more, because it's shunned upon because it's where your power lies. And if you're not diving into those areas, then you cut off your power. But you have the ability to switch it back on. The next areas that you want to cover in your self-care, because these are extremely critical, which I've mentioned earlier, is the emotional and mental self-care practices. Self-care is not complete without nurturing your mind and your emotional health. In our society, mental health is something that is still very taboo, even though it has become a bit trendy. But with the trendy, I see it not in a wholesome, holistic, nurturing way, but in a way to avoid accountability. Dealing with any sort of mental health concern, be it depression, anxiety, OCD, bipolar, borderline personality, like there's a lot of things that are out there. Those don't define you. They're not who you are. What I see of these mental and emotional issues that have arisen are a way that the divine in our body is trying to communicate that things are not aligned. When we are anxious, we are thinking futuristic and we're not embodied. When we're depressed, we're thinking of the past. And that, again, means that we're not aligned in the current reality of right now. You, whomever is listening to my voice right now, this is the reality we are in right this moment. But thinking about things from a different time perspective throws us off. And that is our way of a cue to know that I need to stop and I need to check in with myself. What am I feeling? Do I feel like I am covered? Am I feeling protected? Do I feel safe? Do I feel whatever it is that I feel? And you have the power to then shift that. Some things are from past traumas that we either are not aware of, or we are aware of them, but they're still kind of giving us some challenges, which is okay. But the key here of emotional and mental self-care is being very cognizant of what we're feeling and being able to give to ourselves in a way that is healthy. So an example I will give, when hopefully this doesn't jar too many, let's say that you are talking to your mother, and every time that you talk to your mother, you find yourself in the bottom of a pack of Oreos every single time. This potentially can lead to some weight gain, to some self-hatred, to not feeling our greatest about ourselves. But if we're not aware of why we behave the way we behave, this behavior will perpetuate and continue, and sometimes can grow and escalate. However, the core issue is that when you talk to your mother, she's constantly berating you, belittling you, and you do not feel that you can speak up. And this then triggers past wounds from her and just the world in general in regards to your value, your self-worth, which we all know all those things come from within. And anytime that we allow outside sources to tell us what we are putting ourselves in a very unaligned place. When you understand what's going on, you can then move in a different way. So for a while, you may still hit those Oreos, but you are aware that, okay, I had this talk with mom again, and this is how I'm coping. And then as you get stronger, you still may hit those Oreos, but it's more like, this is what I want to do. This is how I want to resolve this. And then as you continue to grow and flourish, you may eventually speak out. You may even go bolder depending on the relationship of severing the relationship altogether. You can apply this to working situations in which you are constantly having to snack on something to suppress your real true feelings about your job, which is you truly are not happy there. You don't feel very appreciated. You are undervalued based off of your status and the amount that you make, and it just doesn't fit you. I find that a lot of companies will give snacks and other not so healthy items in order to keep us distracted and essentially dissociated. But as long as we're working, then they're happy, and thus makes the world go round. But ensuring that you take care of your emotional and mental health, this is going to allow everything about you, the body to flourish, the mind to flourish, and your spirit. I hope that as you listen to this, if something starts to feel a bit of an angst, I hope that you sit with it and figure out why. You deserve to be happy. You deserve to be well watered. You deserve to flourish and shine and glow. And if more women, no matter their age, did just that, it would illuminate the world. Seeing happy women, happily embodied divine feminine women, is my ultimate goal in this life, because I understand that we nourish the world, we bring beauty to the world, we bring creativity, vibrancy, deep, deep, deep innovation, and just deep, deep, deep enrichment. But at this current state in the world, where there's constant psychological fear, there's constant lack, there's this constant competitiveness amongst women, this notion of needing to constantly level up, all those things means that you, as a true divine woman, especially as we age, we are not really living out our best and wildest dreams. We are still entrapped into some other person's desires and storylines that honestly don't fit us. They're ill-fitted, and they do not have the capacity to expand in a way that is truly the divine feminine. If you liked this, please leave a comment, subscribe, share this with a friend, and I hope that you constantly live in your most elevated state. And until next time, be gracious.